Channel 2, English. 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 Channel 2, English.
That's all right for the translation. They can still work on the translation.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much for these micros, and welcome to the S&D press conference ahead of this, or in the middle of this session going on. I hand over to our group president, Iratxe García Perez, and then there's, of course, time for your questions. Gracias.
Buenos días a todos y a todas y gracias por atender este encuentro. Les doy tiempo para poder poner la traducción. Perfecto. Encuentro que mantenemos todas. It's okay, no?
Does the translation work?
No.
1 second. Okay.
Put the German bit on.
It's not. Oh. Yeah. They don't have, and they think that maybe the others. Okay, I will do it in English in this case. Okay. And we will. Yeah, now it's working. No.
Español, sí, sí.
Puedo hablar en español.
Okay. Okay. Apparently it's working, but we do have a sound. No, the speaker should speak into the main microphone. Thank you. It's a bit like Europe, really. Sometimes you get the impression it's all going down the drain, but suddenly everything's working fine again. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start by taking a look at this week's agenda to focus on some of the debates which I think of particular interest for us before moving on to questions. I'd like to start by talking about the debate on immigration. As you know, tomorrow we'll be having a debate on future management of immigration, focusing on efficiency. This debate is very timely, in particular coming on the heels of last week's summit, during which a series of issues were debated by the Council. So, to try and situate this debate as part of the new Parliament, both in terms of substance and politically speaking, I would start by saying that obviously the European right and the European far right have a strategy which is to shine a spotlight on the question of immigration, but they're just doing so in a partial way, where they just focus on the question of migrants and ignoring the fact that during the rest of the year we've had the adoption of a package on migration, a horizontal package, which examines different aspects such as solidarity, reunification of migrants, and of course returns. But in my view, there's a clear desire in the right to focus on one aspect so as to create a sense of alarm amongst the people of Europe regarding immigration. And this is completely irresponsible. That's our view. And we're not going to allow them to do that, and nor are we going to go along with it. So I'm speaking, of course, on behalf of the S&D group when I say this. As far as international law, human rights and human dignity are concerned, they have to be the foundations of any debate on migration, this week and in the future. Any proposal to externalize asylum and returns policy is in direct breach of international law. And this was confirmed last Wednesday. The Supreme Court in Rome handed down a ruling on the agreement between Italy and Albania. And this is something we've been pointing out for some time now. I'd like to reiterate our position on this. The S&D group has been utterly opposed to externalization of these services to third countries. This is against the strategy, we're against the strategy of the EPP. We're very concerned by the fact that President von der Leyen wants to adopt and generalize these measures throughout the European Union. We want to make it clear once again that she cannot count on our support. She cannot count on the S&D group. She can count on us when it comes to talking about implementation of the Migration Pact. But this has to be done in a global way. We will have to talk about measures to improve the return of illegal immigrants, which are part of the package. But this package also includes aspects such as the whole question of search and rescue operations for migrants who are lost at sea. And clearly the European Union does have to talk about measures we can take to prevent these people drowning at sea. There's also the question of solidarity, relocation. It goes without saying that some members of the European Union are subject to far greater pressure from migration because they're on the Mediterranean. That's where people arrive. But it's important the whole of the European Union work on the basis of solidarity with them. Solidarity is a key issue for us, as we've said on many occasions in the past. Solidarity with countries which need help, which need economic support, which also need guarantees that this relocation instrument will be implemented, and solidarity with the people who are fleeing hunger, war and persecution. Just before the summer, Ms. von der Leyen promised to find a European response, a just response based on our values, with a common focus on efficient and fair returns policy. And this is something which our group will continue to defend. We will not allow experiments or to be implemented, or indeed ideas which undermine international law. Has been the case with the Meloni government's agreement with Albania. Good. Moving on now to other items. So we have the debate on abortion in Poland, the arrival of migrants is not the only thing which worries in terms of the response of right-wing governments. The situation in Poland with the law on abortion is another obvious example. Abortion legislation in Poland is one of the most severe examples, the most restrictive examples in Europe. It causes severe physical and mental damage to women. The right to abortion is a fundamental right, and Poland should legalize and decriminalize abortion. As far as the Sakharov Prize is concerned, we have been apprised as to the decision adopted last week by the Foreign Affairs Committee. They've put forward a short list of 3 candidates, including our candidates. That's to say the candidates put forward for the Sakharov Prize by the S&D group. These are the Jewish and Palestinian women's peace groups, Women of Peace and Women of the Sun. In the light of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, I think it's essential that we give a voice, a platform to those organizations which are fighting so hard for a better understanding between the 2 states, the state of Palestine and the state of Israel. And clearly these women deeply deserve this sign of recognition. As far as Moldova is concerned, as you know, there were presidential elections recently, and there was a victory for Europe, a very tight victory, but I'd like to congratulate Maia Sandu, the president, and the population, the people of Moldova, for their sign of support for Europe, despite the blatant examples of foreign interference and fake news instigated by Russia over the last few weeks. This sends out a clear message, and I can guarantee that Europe will continue to accompany and support the people of Moldova on this road to membership of the European Union. Just to wind up, regarding the anniversary of the assassination of Daphne Caruana, 7 years ago now, I would like to reiterate my sincere condolences to those close to her. I'd like to reiterate our support for all of those fighting for human rights in Europe. That's a fundamental pillar of our organisation. And I will be starting my address today by asking us to commemorate that.
Hi, Andy Bounds of the Financial Times. Just 2 questions on migration. The country which the Italian court said it was not safe to send people back to is Bangladesh. Do you believe that living in Bangladesh is not safe? I'm not talking about political activists, I'm just talking about ordinary people who from Bangladesh, who've lived there their whole lives. Is it really unsafe to send people back to Bangladesh because it has a population of 174 million people? And are we saying that all of them should be given asylum in the EU? And secondly, on the returns directive, which the Commission is going to put forward, what are your red lines? Last time that directive got stuck in the European Parliament. So what does it need to say in order to get your votes? Thanks.
Sorry. Esta directiva se quedó atascada en el Parlamento Europeo.
This directive was blocked in the European Parliament because of the EPP. It's important to remember that. It's the EPP who blocked any progress on this directive. And now, suddenly, it appears they have a majority, thinks they can work with the groups from the far right. And that's quite striking. That means that they've found enthusiasm to talk about this. We'll continue doing our job. We will continue to play the role which we've always played in the Parliament. And we'll adopt a clear position on this directive. We're not saying that this directive shouldn't exist. Of course, this directive is part of an overall package. So to talk about red lines, given that we're not even aware yet of the Commission's proposal, our red line is compliance with international law. You asked me about the specific case of Bangladesh. I don't know what I should say. I'm not the person who can say whether or not countries are safe. It's not up to individuals to say that. It's not up to me as Iratxe García, as head of the S&D group, nor indeed does it fall to Giorgia Meloni or her government to adopt a decree establishing a list of safe countries. Any such list must be established on global criteria, and we believe that Europe should also be well placed to provide a list of criteria to establish whether or not a country is safe. In my view, if the Supreme Court in Italy says that a country is or isn't safe, I think we have to respect judicial decisions, and that seems to be the only thing to do now. And that applies to any representative of the EU or indeed member states. And I know that the court in Rome adopted its decision on the basis of objective criteria.
Questions? Yes, we start here. Maciek, with you, and then we go the rest.
Maciek Zakrowski, Polish television. Two questions. First, about migration. You are right, the Pact of Migration and Asylum was adopted, but we still need some years to transfer it to the national laws. And the Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, during the last council said that there is no tools in that pact to use it regarding the situation we have on the Polish-Belarusian border. He says there is the hybrid war arranged by Putin and Lukashenko, and the migrants are just the weapons. 2 months ago, as far as I remember, one of the Polish soldiers was killed by the migrants storming this border. And the Prime Minister says it's my duty to use maybe difficult to accept tools, but to do something to make Polish people safe. And he said that he's going to suspend the law for asylum. And there is a huge discussion whether he can do it or not.
Could you come to your question?
Yeah, and this is the question, what do you think about this? Because this suspension of the asylum law is now the most hot topic. And regarding the debate tomorrow about the abortion law in Poland, the new government wants to change it, the abortion law in Poland, but we still have the president, and he will be in office for 230 days more. And he openly says that he will never sign it, and it's necessary in Polish law to adopt it with the signature of president. So there is nothing we can. I mean, the government can't do nothing with it.
Posiblemente ese.
Well, this is perhaps the public argument put across by the Polish government. And they can, of course, do that, but it's our right and our duty to insist on the fact that abortion is a fundamental right, regardless of the specific circumstances that you're experiencing at the moment. One thing is the political situation, and there is political will. And what we need to see from the Polish government is political will to make progress on this topic. Yes, there might be blockage due to the president's veto, and we can't do anything to change that. But what we can do is to see whether the government actually has the political will to put this topic on the table. And that in itself is important. If it gets held up because of the position of the president, well, of course, that's not the government's responsibility. The government's responsibility is to ensure that it's debated in the parliament. And if the president chooses to hold it up, then of course that's something that we have to keep in mind. But political will is fundamental here. Then the suspension of the asylum law. In certain areas there are special circumstances, and we know what's happening in Belarus. And there are exceptional situations, and sometimes then you have to take extraordinary measures to face up to those. But what we don't want to see, we don't think that an exceptional measure that's acceptable is a suspension of the right to asylum on a generalised basis. The right to asylum is a fundamental right. So everyone who comes to Europe, that includes Poland. Now, if there has to be a concrete response to this particular situation, then we'll look for those that specific tool, but we're not going to suspend the right to asylum, which is set out in international law. And this applies to people who are fleeing their countries when they are facing a risk to their lives. So, of course, we're against the suspension of the right to asylum.
Monsieur El Mali, journaliste de...
I'm from Kurdish television, Mr. Mali. On refugees and immigrants, information suggests that Turkey is building camps or houses in regions in Syria. These are regions that are illegally occupied. And this should be qualified as ethnic cleansing, and it's being done with European money. So they're building camps to send Syrian refugees to, forcing them to go there. Also, currently in Lebanon, there are thousands of refugees who are going back to Syria. In Syria, there are some regions that are not controlled by the government. Do you have a position or a proposal? Or how do you see the situation with thousands of refugees who are fleeing these regions of conflict or war?
Con respecto a esta cuestión más...
Well, more generally on this topic, and with reference to the civilian population in Lebanon, Beirut, the Gaza Strip, well, what our group is trying to do here is to focus on the political situation, the fact that Europe needs to speak with one united voice to try to bring about a resolution to the conflict with the two states. But what we really want to focus on is the need and urgency for humanitarian aid for everyone, for people in Lebanon and those who have been displaced to other regions as well. So for us, the issue of humanitarian aid is key. On your first question, again, the Socialists and Democrats are against any type of externalization when it comes to managing asylum procedures for people in Europe, however that's done.
Thank you. Final question here. Yes, please.
Bonjour, Emmanuel Beretta. Vous avez évoqué...
You referred to the Rome Court decision. Do you have an opinion on the 4th of October ruling on fishing agreements? I understood that the Spanish S&D group had an unfavourable view of it. Is this not a question of sovereignty with Morocco or the other countries? Who should this not be not taken into account in the judge's ruling?
Yo siempre he separado esas.
Yes, I've always separated these two issues. One question is the Spanish government's decision, who went to the Court of Justice on this issue, and this is something that the Spanish government and I have said as president of the S&D group. We have to ensure respect for legal rulings, so of course full respect for this decision. But at the same time, we have to find the right way to do this, to solve this issue through negotiations in light of the rulings from the court.
We're quick. We can take two more questions, Max, and then Pietro, but one question only.
Hi, thank you. So, you were talking about the debate on migration, how EPP seems very keen to debate now with the far right and hard right. And of course this follows, sorry, very quickly, this follows a lot of cases in which EPP has sided with the far right, right, in COP, with Venezuela and so on. And we've heard your complaints and the Greens and Renew's complaints. So just my question to you is, what will you do about the cordon sanitaire, you know? What is your answer to EPP? How much will you take? What will be your response?
respuesta es clara.
My response is clear. We will continue to defend the need for Europe to have a pro-European alliance, one that reflects diversity within the Parliament, the EPP, S&D, Liberals and Greens. And we will continue to defend that alliance. We don't want to allow double majorities to be used. And when it comes to votes, we'll see whether the EPP is really going to respect the alliance or the cordon sanitaire. But this is something that I've said repeatedly. This is a question you should be putting to the EPP and Mr. Weber. They're the ones who, if anyone's breaking the alliance, it's them who are working to create alliances with the far right. We have a responsibility to be conscious of what it would mean to drift to the right and create alliances with the right, and what that would mean for European values. Of course, at some point, the EPP is going to have to clearly adopt one position or another. But as I said, we've been clear. We will continue to reach out to them. But at a certain point, the EPP is going to have to make its position clear.
Very quickly, you just said...
Please introduce yourself.
Pietro Guastamacchia from ANSA News Agency. Very quickly, you just said von der Leyen would not have our support if she continues to support repatriation hub and externalization of migration. You clearly stated externalization of migration is against international law. It's clearly something that your group feel very strongly. So my quick question would be, are you ready to vote down the Commission on something like this?
Esa es una decisión que tenemos que abordar.
Well, this is a decision that we would have to discuss within the group. Should the time arise. And in light of the outcome of the hearings. But statements like that don't help with calm, respectful debates.
Thank you very much. Have a good week. Thank you very much, Iratxe, for this session.